From being played on stage in front of thousands of fans to becoming a wearable accessory. This week, we hear how a company in America is keeping guitar strings out of the landfill. How's it going? Thank you so much for hitting play on Earth Care and being patient because there wasn't an episode last week. That was a bit of a last-minute delay. That really means a lot. This, of course, is the podcast where we have climate-conscious conversations in a not-so-overwhelming way. I'm your host, Sarah Kristie, and this is episode 10 of the Sustainability in the Live Music Industry series. Now, before I introduce you to this week's guest, I just want to say a big thank you. Whether you've listened before or this is your first time hitting play, I really do appreciate you being part of this conversation. Have you ever been to a concert and watched the artist throw something into the crowd for the fans? It's pretty common to see, guitar picks, drumsticks, sometimes even water bottles, towels. How cool is that, though? A fan gets to go home with something so personal from the artist. It's like the concert version of 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Now, I've never been on the receiving end of that. The closest comparison I can think of is I have the set list from Elton John's farewell tour at the Rogers Centre in Toronto. All of the security guards by the stage were holding a copy of the list. So after the show, my friend and I walked over and asked, hey, can we have a copy? And it's been pinned above my desk at work ever since. It makes me feel like I'm that much closer to the Rocket Man, but it's so exclusive to that show and that memory, right? Well, a company in the States has figured out a way to manufacture that feeling while diverting waste from a landfill and supporting worthy organizations. Wear Your Music story begins in 2004 with founder Hannah Garrison, who at the time was focused on making jewelry from recycled and found objects. Fast forward to present day, where she and her team in New York City have partnered with superstars such as Eric Clapton, John Mayer, Paul McCartney to upcycle their used guitar strings into wearable merch. Not only do they deserve a heck yeah for their environmental innovation and stewardship, their policy for supporting women, community, and family deserves to have light shine on it as well. Their website states that they're a team comprised of all women, provide flexible hours in a child-friendly environment, and encourage parents to leave mid-afternoon to meet their kiddos after school. Heck yeah. Kristie Peterson, artist liaison at Wear Your Music, is this week's guest on Earth Care. Kristie discusses the backstory of Wear Your Music, how it started, how they're upcycling these guitar strings. We chat about who's been donating, the process of making the jewelry, the charitable donations, and the power of creativity in sustainability. Here it is, episode 10 of the Sustainability in the Live Music Industry series with Wear Your Music. Kristie Peterson from Wear Your Music, thank you so much for joining Earth Care and being a part of our Sustainability in the Live Music Industry series. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. This is such a cool concept. Can you give a little bit of a backstory on the business?
Yeah, it all started about 2004. Our president and founder, my boss, was hanging out with friends, just living her life. And a lot of them were musicians. And she started to notice that as they, changed their guitar strings, they would just get thrown away. And she said, what can I do with that? So she started messing around with them and creating, and basically ended up making these bracelets, at first just by hand, and they became popular with her friends. She continued to just make them as she came across the strings and hand them out, and then went off and, just did other things. A couple years later, she saw an ad in Craigslist, and somebody there was saying, hey, is anybody out there doing anything interesting with guitar strings? And it brought it all back. So she contacted him. They got together, formed Wear Your Music, and this was about 2006, and there you go. And then it just took off and running.
Wow, this is a silly question, but I don't play guitar. I pretend to pick it up and know what I'm doing, but I don't. How often would an artist be? Is it every time, after a concert, are they changing guitar strings, or whenever they break? What is that turnaround?
All of it. So what happens is, this is what I've learned, because I also don't play guitar.
Yeah.
We receive all kinds of guitar strings. Some of them are pristine. They look like they haven't been played at all. Those folks change them all the time. I've talked to people that say they change them after every 3 shows. We also get strings that are quite grubby. that clearly have been very well played and don't get changed hardly at all. So I think it really is a personal preference.
Ooh, those ones would tell a story. You know how you run into those people who have Converses that are taped together, it's almost like a badge of honor, the story that they would tell. So, who have you worked with so far? Who's donated their guitar strings?
Oh, gosh, I don't even know where to start. Let's see. We have all three members of that play strings in Metallica: James Hetfield, Kirk Hammett, Robert Trujillo. We have people as diverse as we have Joan Jett, James Taylor, Bonnie Raitt, Joan Baez, Tommy Emmanuel, who just won a Grammy at the Grammy Awards. And let's see, we have country artists, even things like Duran Duran. We get people saying, hey, we didn't know Simon Le Bon played the guitar. He does. So it's really, I'm actually quite impressed. I've only been here a few years, and it's just, I'm just thrilled.
So, what is the process? You get the guitar string, and then what does it have to go through in order to become this wearable jewelry?
Well, we get them in from the artists themselves. Usually their techs or their management sends them in. We are very careful about tagging them, cleaning them, setting them aside, getting them ready for production. Then we wait, and each piece is custom made. So as the orders come in, then our production takes over. But at no time are the strings ever mixed up. You're only allowed to open one artist at a time, close that box, put it away before you get out the next one.
That was going to be my question.
Yes.
Is there any mix up? But no, I'm recording from Canada. I saw there was Avril Lavigne on the website as well.
She is quite elusive. We have been out of stock, but we did have her for a while. And I think I sold her last piece about a year ago. Lost track with her management. So Avril, if you're out there, we would love to restock your strings, because I actually continually get requests for her.
Okay, so is that a thing? Fans can write in and request
Yes.
for their favorite artists as well? How does that work?
On our website, there is a place down, I think, at the bottom of the homepage, and it says request a musician, and you go and just fill out the form. And then I'm the one that goes and tries to find the people to get them to donate.
Wow. Okay. Now, what do you wish? Because this is, this whole process is diverting waste from a landfill, right? These
Yep.
guitar strings would just end up in a landfill otherwise if they weren't being upcycled into jewelry. What do you wish more people understood about the sustainable growing merch industry?
I guess that with a little imagination, there's no limit to what you can do. So we're always trying to create, like I said, my boss started making these bracelets. And then over the years, they become a little more sophisticated because she's our main designer, and things have changed around. Besides our basic guitar string bracelet, we also added a cuff to expand the line. And then next after that, we added a pendant. There really are no limits if you just use your creativity.
It's funny because I've seen online on like Kijiji, Craigslist, like you mentioned, people selling tissue paper or a water bottle that was touched by an artist, which I guess if you take a step back, yeah, it is a form of upcycling or diverting from a landfill. But then this is such a cool concept. So when you're reaching out and connecting with these artists, what kind of feedback are you getting?
Again, it really depends on the artist, and some of them are definitely easier than others. When I reached out to people last year, like Lindsey Buckingham's people were awesome. I said, hey, I'm from Wear Your Music. This is what we do. We ask for donated guitar strings. You choose a charity. We make them into memorabilia. We sell them to fans. And then, we go from there. So the management said, let me check. Literally, it was like 2 days later. Lindsey wants in. He wants to do this. And it was like, wow, I wish everybody was that easy. And then we got the ball rolling. Other folks, it's a little more coaxing. Some of it, it's just hard finding the contacts. What happens too is a lot of the artists, they change managers frequently. So you're always, trying to keep up with it.
We have to talk about this reusable water bottle that is perfect for live events. For venues that allow personal bottles, you'll often see in the fine print that they request the bottle be small and on the softer side, so no metal, glass, or cans. They also request that your bag be tiny, which makes fitting your big reusable water bottle in there kind of tricky. Not with this one though. It's the Hideaway 17-ounce collapsible water bottle that when collapsed is a small disc that fits in your palm. So it'll sit cozy in your bag or pocket until you pass by that free water refill station, expand the bottle, fill it up, save money by not buying a disposable bottle at the venue, and help reduce plastic bottle pollution. Check out the Hideaway collapsible water bottle in the show notes and use the discount code PODCAST for 10% off your first purchase. Now, you mentioned that the artist gets to pick a charity that money
Yes.
goes to when they... Okay, so how does that work?
It's up to them. So we right now have over 120 charities that our artists have chosen. We sell the memorabilia. At the end of the year, we take the profits and then we divvy them out to the charities.
That's just incredible.
We've got everything. We have artists like Metallica, Dierks Bentley, Melissa Etheridge that have their own foundations. So the profits go to their foundations and they decide how to distribute them. Then we have other artists that work with environmental groups, human resources type industries. We have health, mental health, animal welfare. I mean, you name it. It's a wide span.
It really is so incredible, the whole business structure. Going through your website and reading through what you've all put in place over there. You know, once you start really digging into sustainability, you'll quickly learn that it goes beyond environmental, right? It's all encompassed. So tell me about some of the company values beyond, diverting waste from a landfill.
You've hit the main one. It's keeping all of this metal out of landfills, right? But then the next level is we also value community, and we're trying to connect fans to artists, to their charities, back to fans. And we just look at it as real music is the one language that's universal across, everything. Then our other thing is charity and philanthropy, showing what are the ways that we can support each other. So there's direct giving, but then there's also raising awareness about just the diversity that's out there with the charities. That's what I found, because we have some big name charities, but then in looking, we've got a lot of smaller ones too. So just bringing that awareness out there and letting people get involved.
Now I have to ask, because you said music is universal, is there a concert moment for you that stands out? Not even about the guitar, just simply about music.
I feel very fortunate that I was able to go to the last Queen show and saw Brian May. Well, as we speak, his tech has collected those strings, and hopefully they will end up here in the studio quite soon. So the idea of it's like, I saw that string being played, and before you know it, it's going to be here and I'll actually get to touch it.
Wow.
And then we'll, then it goes into the memorabilia and we sell it for fans. I won't keep it. But the idea, as I was watching him play, I knew it's like, I am going to have that string as soon as it gets here.
Yeah, that's quite spectacular. Everything about Where Your Music truly is, and it's such a treat to have you joining EarthCare to spotlight the incredible work that Where Your Music is doing to divert waste and bring fans closer to music, because as you said, it connects with every single person. So thank you so much for sharing your time with EarthCare.
Oh, thank you so much for asking and having me.
So our homework this week, try and get Avril Lavigne to listen to this episode so she can donate the next round of her guitar strings, right? Or whoever your favorite artist is. Did they play guitar? Message them on social media or tag them in a post from Where Your Music so they're aware of their work. You never know. It could work, and you could be wearing a bracelet played by your favorite artist, musician, band in the near future. A link to Where Your Music is, of course, included in the show notes. Another link in the show notes is to the Fans Choose to Reuse pledge, which is a 100% free way to take climate action without taking away from the concert live music experience. This pledge is a rally call for music lovers and concert goers to commit to bringing a reusable water bottle with them to live shows whenever the venue allows it. So you can add your name to that pledge by following the link in the show notes, add to that growing community of people dedicated to reducing plastic waste, and just love going to live music. It takes under a minute, I promise, and there's absolutely power in numbers. Now, each episode, I promise to make this climate action easier for you by highlighting some of the venues across Canada that allow guests to bring their own bottle. If episode 10 is your first episode, well, we've covered a lot of ground so far in this series, so definitely worth listening back to previous episodes to learn just how many venues are cool with guests bringing in their own bottles, but maybe don't include that information or make it so obvious on their website. So this week's message is coming to us from Sam over in the prairies in Saskatoon. Now, I had to do a lot of digging and a few phone calls for this one because I've never actually been to Saskatchewan. Not totally familiar with the main venues, but I found some. If you're heading to a show at TCU Place in Saskatoon or the E.A. Rawlinson Center in Prince Albert, you're good to bring your own personal water bottle. Just make sure they're soft-shelled, small, empty upon entry. You don't want to get it confiscated. I don't know how far Moose Jaw is, but in case you find yourself there too, the Moose Jaw Event Center also let me know that, yeah, they're good with personal water bottles. So now the deal is, of course, if you're heading to those venues or you know someone who is, you got to bring your own personal water bottle, help reduce plastic pollution. It's also a great way to tell the venue that this is what you prefer. Reusables over single use every day. If you haven't already done it, I invite you to hit follow or subscribe to the Earth Care Podcast. This way you'll see whenever new episodes are out, but also both of those, truthfully, really help me with growing this show and reaching more people with this conversation about sustainability. I really do appreciate you making time for this series. Thank you again for joining episode 10 of the Sustainability in the Live Music Industry series on Earth Care. I'm your host, Sarah Kristie. Talk to you next week when we meet a group of musicians, artists, innovators in Scotland who are giving abandoned pianos a second life.